Today's episode is brought to you by PTZ Optics. Disability Upgrade. New Wave Toys and their Replicate Amusements products. GG Retrobox. Get 3 to 5 games from your favorite series, consoles, and game genres delivered to your doorstep every month with GG Retrobox, the ultimate retro gaming subscription box for video game enthusiasts. Use code GRS15 at checkout to get 15% off your first box. And
Boom shakalaka! Hey everybody, it's Tim Kitcher here, the voice of some of your favorite video games like NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and I'm here to talk to you about Old School Gamer Magazine. It's the magazine for retro gaming, and it's exploding. Kaboom! Print issues come out every other month, and if you want to go green, digital options are available. Visit oldschoolgamer.com and subscribe now. That's oldschoolgamer.com. Boom shakalaka! Kaboom!
yes, welcome to Kicking It Old School. This is the Demon Dragon here, coming to screw up Glenn's show. Blew up his computer right before the show was going to start. But we are here, and we'll get, hopefully you guys can hear us all. See if Steven and Electric Adventures can be heard.
I'm just baffled at what Glenn's turned into.
I didn't turn, no, Glenn's over here somewhere, but I came here to fry his computer. I came in and toasted it right before the show started.
You ate him, basically, it sounds like.
More or less.
Well,
I'm here to make sure the show kicks off. I'll put Glenn on in a little bit. But for right now, Stephen, why don't you read through the chat and introduce our guest?
I don't take orders from you. I take orders from Glenn. This dragon thing. Come to Canada and fly over here. I dare you. Anyways, let's get some welcomes in here. So let's have Jason, our resident AI, as Glenn likes to call him. Andy's Game Room, Video Game Vegas, Goofyfoot, welcome guys. JJ, JLS Gaming from Florida, hello. Stephen M, Nix, Who else we got here? Pliskin's Run. Carl O. Who else we got? Ritual Dello. There, I think I pronounced his name right finally.
For once.
For one. Mystery Encoder. Who else we got here? Hobby Hands. Carlo. Biggie D's Arcade. Welcome. Who else we got? Michael B, the video game genie, or the game genie, not the video game genie. Game genie. Let's
Can everyone
see.
hear everyone?
Go ahead.
I think someone said they had a hard time hearing good old Electric Adventures.
Well, maybe we should do a sound check because your big dragon hands probably screwed it up. or claws. I'm sorry. I'm just sorry. Whatever. Anyways, we'll keep going, and then we'll do some mic check, right? JT Brunnick, not Brunswick. I was going to say Brunswick. Let's see, JR. And let's see, Goofy Foot, I think I've already said. Vet 1981. Green Sammy 87. To take the time, welcome. Saved by Zero, welcome. KCam 216. Friday for sure. And that's it, Chris Ford at the bottom. So welcome everybody, TGIF. And we're going to do a sound check with our returned guest, Tony, from the Land Down Under, Electric Adventures. So let's do a mic check. So it would be Saturday morning over there. And it's winter on top of that. So it's winter and the time is 14 hours ahead, I believe.
Yes, 14 hours from the future. So, requests for tax lotto numbers and, game results.
Cool.
Send them to the usual places.
Cool. All right. So is the sound good there?
My big dragon fingers screw up his sound, but he's good now. He's good now. All
right. So, when you get a minute, go get Glenn and fart him out of your behind there, and we'll get him going on the show here.
Way? He's had a pretty shitty week, so that's what he deserves.
Yeah, I suppose it's so. What's the weather like in Tasmania, Mr. Cruz? What's the weather like?
It is the middle of winter. We don't get snow at ground level. In Tasmania, which is the island below Australia. So I know it's the main part of Australia. Don't ignore those mainlanders. And I'm on the southern part of that. Up the north of Tasmania, it actually does get below zero at night time. We have a quite high mountain near us, and there is a little bit of snow up there at the moment, but that's all. Sometimes it gets a bit colder. But other than that, it's usually actually clear blue skies, which it is today.
Cool.
So, cool. And not a lot of rain. The rain falls in the middle of Tasmania, not really on the coast where we are. So, but luckily it runs downhill, so we don't have a shortage of drinking water. You just don't have much for the garden.
That's fine. That's cool. So, yes, somebody in the chat mentioned that Video Game Vegas notices the Berserk in the background. So maybe give...
Yes.
You were here before, and I think we did a little bit of this before, but give somebody a bit of a enumeration of, because that pinball machine I think is fairly new back there.
Yes, well, going from the latest edition, so behind my shoulder is my first real pinball machine, which is an original Data East Star Trek.
Cool.
I really enjoy that one.
Now, based on the Kirk Star Trek, is it?
Yes, original Star Trek, which is
okay.
Original Star Trek, which is out of the Star Treks, it's actually one of my favorites. And going along that side, we have a Street Fighter 2 cabinet, boards working, monitors still having trouble at the moment. I actually recapped it 2 weeks ago, made it worse at the moment, so I'll probably.
That's what happens with old school machines.
That was sort of like, Tony has an hour to try and do something, so I'll recap a chassis. And then I had like 5 minutes to test it, so I probably just hooked something up wrong or put a cap in backwards. So I'll
Yeah,
get
the
back to
cap
that
backwards
one.
would make more sense.
The next one along, the ugly, what I call my ugly green cabinet, is actually originally a Midway baseball that was converted into a Midway Space Invaders. And it does have a Space Invaders marquee that somebody then cut out the middle of and put, I can never pronounce the name of the game, XXs or whatever it's called, like a vertical shoot 'em up. And that one, its chassis works for about 10 minutes and then the screen goes all wobbly and goes off. So it's got a crystal that I need to replace. Then we have the Berserk, which is one of my original cabinets. And it is, so I said, we're going down the line of ones that don't work. It boots up and gets to the last section of the diagnosis. So it's the color board. I have all the other boards working. And I believe the color board's working. I think I have an interconnection cable problem because the cables are very old and brittle, and I need to bite the bullet and replace all of the cables that go in between the boards.
Cool.
And just to another side of that, I have an Australian-built vertical large cabinet. It was built like Leisure and Allied Industries built a lot of cabinets in Australia under license, and that's got Raiden in it. Next to that you won't see because it's off screen, I have an older Leisure and Allied that's running twin. It's labeled Twin Cobra and currently has Fire Shark in it. And I have an Attack from Mars virtual pinball. And then going along the other side of the room, we have a Leisure and Allied Lowboy cabinet there, and I have made
one over your shoulder there.
Yeah, made that my Neo Geo cabinet. Next to that, we have a mini marquee cabinet that is Choplifter. Actually, quite like that game. Once
It
again,
is a
off
fun
pit.
game for sure.
It is actually. It's quite hard to get into, but once you get into it, it's actually got quite a bit of variety in it. Next to that is one of my favourite games, which is of all time, which is Tutankhamun, in another mini marquee.
Really?
Yep.
That's your fave?
Not quite. One of my faves in one of the cocktails.
But what about Dragon Spirit?
Dragon's Fury.
No bias there, I think.
Yeah, I think they
Not
might be
at all.
surprised.
No. It's a good game. Good game.
I believe I have briefly played that one. Next to that one is actually a Nintendo cabinet. Once again, it's not in your picture. I'm sorry. And it's got somebody at some stage rotated the monitor to a horizontal instead of a vertical, but it is originally I've got the name of the game now. The Nintendo clone of Galaxian, basically, was what the cabinet was originally. It's currently a Bosconian, although the Bosconian board's got a RAM error at the moment, so I've got a multi-horizontal in there. And then I have a checkered flag racing game. And then for the cocktails, I have a Nintendo Helifire, but I've almost finished restoring Time Pilot, which is my favourite arcade game.
That is a good game.
I have a Williams FPGA multi sit-down that has Robotron controls on one side and Defender/normal controls on the other side. So that has all the Williams games in FPGA. So I actually play that quite a lot. I actually play Moon Patrol quite a bit on that one. And then I have a Space Invaders, which is this one here, an original Space Invaders with a cellophane on the screen.
Nice.
And then, butting up to that one is a Space Invaders cabinet, which is a Tato bottom. It's a scramble.
Oh, I like that.
So
game.
you haven't been kicked out of your house by your wife yet, so that's a good sign. So it's you got all this stuff in the garage, but I imagine it doesn't live too much in the house. As far as
I do have a desk in the house where I work from home. I actually used to work out here when I used to work at home.
Well, you got no room anymore with those big cabinets.
Yeah,
That's
I
what's
know,
going
so-
on.
Well, now, Tony, I don't know if you saw in the chat, people are asking, are you retired or still making games? You are still making games.
Yes, and now that my because I used to write a lot of games in the 80s, then got into a career of business software and everything like that, and
boring
then the boring stuff. Then probably about 12 years ago now, I got the itch to start making games again. So I wrote, I converted a couple of my original titles across to the ColecoVision. I resurrected one title that I'd never finished back in the day. That's Cabin Fighter. I've written some titles for the NES, and I've written a book for the NES on programming games in the NES, and I've written a book on programming games for the ColecoVision.
Very good book,
and-
as a matter of fact. I read through the NES one. It's really a good reading. There it is. Very good reading.
Yeah, I got my physical copies just the other day. I haven't even had a
Cool.
chance to make a video about them yet.
Cool. So that's
And-
so you've released one recently,
Yes.
but the answer to their question is that yes, he's still making games.
Yes.
So he's going to show off the one that he's just self-published, which is he's going to show us the box here in a second. I've got my copy here, so you'll get it in stereo or in 5.1, we'll call it maybe.
So I released the same game for ColecoVision, Original Spectre Video, and MSX.
Nice.
And
So that's your first self-published title where you printed your own boxes, 3D print your own cartridge shells, labels, manual, the whole 9 yards, pre-CBs, all of it.
Now,
Yeah,
is
so
that
this is
a injected molded or is it 3D printed?
this is 3D printed. It's pretty
Looks
good
very
quality.
good.
Oh yeah, like I've got it here and it's really good quality. If you got a good printer, making your own cartridge shells should not be a problem by any means. And I think there's a few files out there people can grab or whatever, but in the end,
You do need a good 3D printer. I ended up I had a FlashForge 3, which was okay, but I realised it was going to take too long to print the cartridges. So I splashed out a little, although it wasn't that expensive, and I got a Creality Pro Max, which is the larger one, and it's one of the new high-speed 3D printers. And you use high-speed PLA, which is actually very good quality. The cartridge feels a little heavier than a real Coleco cartridge, but they're very solid.
but in the end, you're not really weightlifting with those things. You're just putting in the console, and that's the end of it. That's exactly it. So,
Yeah,
so
and I got
Mr. Dragon, do you have questions for Tony, or
Well, I'm looking
are you
at
just
his,
here to burn people alive?
Well, I messed up Glenn's computer. I don't want to mess up his stuff. I'm looking at his website here. He's got some good classic games. And me being a dragon, I'm pretty classic. I like the older stuff. So,
I don't know how you use a mouse with the claws there, but okay, sure. We'll run with that.
dragon magic. And I'm a
Magic.
cat.
Okay, Puff.
Hey, he's a good cousin of mine.
He's a
If you
cousin
want
of mine.
something, he sells bags and ounces. You know.
Yeah, that kind of cousin, I guess. Sure.
Yeah, so if you can't tell, I like the older arcade games in my
They'd be classified what, as an
conversions.
8-bit
Yeah, this-
game, or
This one
Yeah.
I like, Kangaroo.
Yeah,
That's a good
everybody
game.
wants Kangaroo. Yeah, Kangaroo's in the short list now, so it's all of the graphic workup's done with that one, and I just haven't actually coded the mechanics.
very cool. So everything from this day forward is going to be shipped, published by you, and I think you've got a distributor in the U.S., right?
Yes, yeah. Actually, there's two places. Good Deal Games is stocking the cartridges, and Console Moo, which is 8-bit Millie, is also stocking the games.
Cool. So
Mr.
you send them a
Encoder,
batch.
a very good friend of the channel, wanted to know, what console do you like developing for most, and why?
Well, it actually, my favourite and the thing that I'm most proud of with this set of games is my original computer that I wrote all my games on, is the original Spectravideo. There were only 7 cartridges released for the game, for the system during its life. And with the addition of this one, you know, that makes 8.
And that's a shame.
You mean
There
to
was a
tell me?
pretty nice console back in the day.
And it was very well thought out machine, and it was the machine that they went, well, this is a nice machine, let's turn it into a standard, and that's what became MSX afterwards. They made some subtle little changes, but only a couple of little things. It's still, and they just had a new version of the next version of the BIOS and BASIC, but it was basically the same. So that's the machine that I cut my teeth on, so to speak. I did have a TI-99 before that, with the chick out keyboard and uppercase only, but I didn't have any tools for it or books and information stuff. So
if this dragon wouldn't have eaten Glenn, Glenn would have told you that was his computer from back in the day. But it had a 994A or something like that. I don't know if you absorbed Glenn's memories there, Mr. Dragon, but you know, is that the case? Is that the similar computer that Glenn used to have?
He's over there. He's over there. He's just not going near me right now because I will burn his face off.
Oh, you scared the crap out of him. Nice going.
But yeah, the TI-99
scare the host.
And 4A were very advanced, but TI kind of butchered the design with the TMS 990 chip. So the good thing is the graphics, the sound, became the ColecoVision, went on to be the MSX line of computers, which is, I guess, why Tony is pretty good at developing at that, because same graphic and sound and memory architecture, right?
Yeah, they're very, very, very similar. And I actually collect what I call TMS machines, which is anything that uses the TI graphics chips. And there are more machines out there that aren't MSX or Coleco than you think. And the original Sega console SG-1000 is one of those as well. That is virtually identical to the Coleco, except it doesn't have a BIOS at all. Not everybody. So the sound chip the TI and the Coleco and the Sega use is from TI. The MSX and Spectravideo, they went with a different sound chip. That is
we have another question here from Mystery Encoder, which is not a shocker, because you are, I think, is one of his idols. I think he idolized you, so he wants to know what programming language did you start with, and what was the most modern console you have developed for it?
Okay, right, yeah. I started with all of my original stuff was written in BASIC. Then I started to learn a little bit of machine code. So I got hold of a book it was actually called The Magic of Spectravideo, and it had a tape-based Z80 assembler. You put your machine code in REM statements in the BASIC, and it would compile, and you loaded the assembler from tape up into high memory, and then you compiled the basic program parts into machine code, and then you saved them on another bit of tape. So I started adding a little bit of machine code to those basic games. So as an example, my Lunar Rescue that I've released on here is based on a game that I wrote in BASIC, but with a little bit of machine code to move all of the asteroids and spaceships around automatically.
And now it's 100% machine code, obviously.
100% machine code, yeah. And then, after I wrote those, then I wrote 100% machine code games. My first 2 games were Meteor Swarm, which is an asteroids clone, and Birds of Orion, which I've always released as like a flip tape, an A and B side tape. They were 4K. And if you think about it, my original machine was a Spectrevideo 318. You had 12.5K free, so you had to load the assembler up and then have enough room in BASIC to have the listing of the assembly, and then you had your output. So 4K was probably about the max until I got a larger machine. When I got a Spectrevideo 328 that had 64K of RAM, and the RAM prompters went away, and I released Munch Mania going up to 6K in size. And then I wrote my Vertical Shoot 'em Up, which is the game that I sold the most of back in the day. Actually sold so many copies of that I bought a car.
Nice.
And that was limited to 12.5K max output because I wanted it to run on the Spectrevideo 318. And I am actually revisiting that game called Pixidus EX, where I'm going to add the things that I couldn't add because I ran out of memory to that game, and release that for the ColecoVision MSX and Spectrevideo.
It's so funny. The small
the
memory
SG-1000.
constraints you guys had. You had such tight memory constraints to make all this stuff work. Code, AI, graphics. It's amazing. And now they need 50 gigabytes just to download it.
And your editor was the basic, editing environment. That's all you had. Later on, when MSX came along, I started using CPM, and I used Ed 80 and Gen 80. That's I can't remember the brand. I actually bought that compiler for the MSX, and that helped a lot.
So when you were using CPM, you must have saw a very good coincidence with MS-DOS, I'm assuming. CPM was awfully a lot like MS-DOS. Can't imagine why.
Because the Spectrevideo came with Spectrevideo Disk Basic, which was made by Microsoft. But this is before MS-DOS. And MSX came with MSX-DOS, which is the simultaneously developed 8-bit version of MS-DOS. And yes, both of those were a weekend project that Bill Gates paid another person to do, to basically grab CPM and make it into MS-DOS over the weekend to get the contract with IBM. And his smart thing was his license deal. He got $10 for every copy included with an IBM PC. And that
still makes some money, though.
That's what made Microsoft as big as they were.
And that's why I am selling Build-A-Cades right now for $49.99. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going rock bottom prices on Build-A-Cades to make the mark.
That's pretty cool. So, by the way,
good segue into a sales pitch.
Does everybody notice? Does Glenn's voice out of sync with what's coming out of his mouth in his video?
The dragon was here. He fried everything. I'm lucky it's working at all today. But it is. It's going to be.
Damn dragon. You got to go wipe that poop off of you because he probably pooped you out.
You got dragon poop everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, it's out of sync. Video Game Vegas said. But anyways, I heard you say that Spectrevideo only had 6 games and you made the other one, basically, that other people. There were a community there? Or?
Well, there were so there were only like 6 or 7 games originally on cartridge. They weren't all games. One of them was a word processor, and there's another one that's just a language cart. There were a lot of tape titles, but I actually released more tape titles for the Spectrevideo than Spectrevideo did back in the day. So
that's a cool accomplishment, though. It is.
And as I said, my most crowning achievement from back in the day, but also my oops moment, is that when we got up to MSX, I converted all my titles over to the MSX. Obviously, copies made it over to Japan, to Mr. Nishi. And I got a letter from ASCII Corporation wanting
recently
to buy.
Or back then?
No, this is back then.
I was going to say, they're all
I was only, I was only 16, 17 years old. And it was basically, they wanted to do a 1,000 copy sample order.
Damn.
Now,
Your mind must have been blown. Like,
and I was going, I'm producing this myself on tape. How am I going to do that? Do they mean they want 1,000 samples for free, or are they going to pay for them? And silly teenage me basically didn't do anything about it.
Did you have parents? I guess your parents didn't quite understand what the hell was going on either. I imagine going,
No.
who is these people and what do they want exactly? And
I think my main thing was basically that I didn't think I could make that many copies. Where was I going to get? Where was I going to get the tapes from? Where was I going to, how was I going to print everything?
Send them the code and let them produce it.
So you just like ignored them?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of like, wow.
That's one of those.
You could have been a bit like the Bit Brothers of Australia.
That's okay. I got distracted with databases.
And girls probably at that point too. So as a 15, 17-year-old-ish would be at that point, it's like, but still, you look back on it now and you're like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly what you do.
Well, it's one of those if you could turn back time moments kind of thing, but it's like, oh well. Yeah, we all have moments like that.
When they gave you that order, was there like a time frame, or that you just saw this 1,000 order and you're just like, I can't do this? Did they say
it was just a letter.
Okay.
So it wasn't a formal order, which is what was a little confused, and
maybe
you're not dealing with email or any electronic form. It was a physical letter mailed to me.
Maybe your parents sent it to you and said,
back in the day, things came by letter in a mailbox, physical mailbox back in the day, and you had to wait. Yeah. It wasn't like
where there was a guy walking to your house to drop off the letter for 25 cents.
And also sending a letter to Japan costs more money than sending a letter to someone else in Australia.
Oh, of course.
That's crazy. When you think about it, it's... Well, you have to look forward now with your own self-publishing and,
Well, there's the thing, I think I've come full circle now. So with this title, I have been producing copies of my original titles on tape, but, everybody's not really into tapes. Cartridges is a much more, physical, faster, reliable, and, I think overall producing something like this is a lot more fun and a lot more collectible, right? So...
Oh yeah,
it's what everybody wants. It looks good on your shelf. It gives you that original purchasing decision, feeling from back in the day.
How long does it take you to produce? The cart, the ROM, the box. How long does it all take you to produce?
Well, I do the PCBs in batches of about 8 to 12, which is about enough to fit on my solder mat. I will get a batch of cartridges and put all the other components on. So with the Coleco, it's only... Here we go. There's a prop hat nearby.
I got one of those. Test board.
This camera won't focus on small stuff. But this little chip up here, which is the logic chip, I just solder them on first. I will then burn a batch of EEPROMs. That doesn't take very long. I'll then bring the EEPROMs over here to where I'm sitting now, and I use this. I plug them in using that socket and put them into the Coleco and make sure that they work. I then take them over to the solder bench and solder all of those 8, 10 chips onto PCBs. I then screw those into a cartridge shell, and I test them one more time in the cartridge shell. Because that's also easier to put them in. And worst case, if they don't work, you unscrew them. I don't stick the labels on. Then I stick the labels on with a little bit of glue, and I leave them for a couple of hours.
Have you ever had a failure when you did the first test and put it in the case? Did you ever have a failure after it's already
not at that second? I haven't had a failure after solder. I've only had a failure after the burn, even though even though the check worked. You just have some. Obviously, these are old stock. These chips, that I'm getting at the moment. So I think you occasionally have a bad leg, or it seems to work in the programmer.
If you want to learn how to make those PCBs, you can go to ColecoVision Addict, and there's instructions over there to how to do it. So if you feel adventurous.
That's probably one of the first times Steven actually plugged himself. I don't think Steven ever. I plug myself every 50 times a show. I think it's the first time you actually plugged yourself, Steven.
Yeah, I know. I just, I don't know. We've got relevant guests, with the whole Coleco thing, and there's some people in the
3D files. 3D files for this show are on Steven's site, and as you can see, it does a good job on the right printer. Now I print them vertically, by the way. I don't print.
Yeah, some people print them flat. Some people,
You have no problem.
I find I get no. I only have a little bit of glue stick on the plate, and I don't put that on every time. The glues last for ages. You obviously have a raft that it makes, a small raft that it makes, and there's a little bit of internal lattice structure that it makes. The top is the thinnest, but it's still
solid.
Fine. Probably the most imperfections are just there near the join, but once again, the sticker goes over there. So
so the individual that did the 3D model for the cartridge and the PCB design is Eric Chart 45 on Atari Age, and Smart Cookie. He's basically busted the doors wide open on the homebrew for ColecoVision, essentially, in a nutshell, all single-handedly, which is, my hat goes off to him every time. So it's but I host the files, and you can do what you want with it, so you can go nuts and make your own games, and But somebody was asking in the chat, Tony.
Here it is.
I think it was Mr. Encoder about if you've actually. No, it's not that one. It was one from earlier.
Mr. Encoder's asking all the questions. Ask this one.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask this one, and then we'll jump to that one. So basically, earlier it was a Mr. Encoder actually that asked the question: is NES? Have you used NES Maker or touched it or whatever? You and I have had that conversation on the phone before.
Yeah, I backed NES Maker, and got it. NES Maker was a little bit buggy and loose to start with, but the guys have kept working at it, and it is now a very polished product. It is a little bit focused on a particular type of game, but that particular type of games and genres are very well suited to the NES market. It does have its limitations, though. So if you want to write, and the NES is a great platform because it's fully expandable in its cartridge, and you can have massive size cartridges. You can have extra hardware in the cartridge to help with some, enhance the graphics and things like that. The NES Maker doesn't handle all of those mappers, though. They're called mappers, the different cartridges. And if you want to take advantage of that, you need to learn some assembly. And even in NES Maker, you need to, in some sections of it, learn some assembly.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so
I played around with it myself.
Just because of where I've come from, I just write my games in assembly, even for the NES. The NES is amazing what it can do with its limited hardware. And by the way, the NES is actually technically in those collection of TMS type devices, because that's where Nintendo borrowed the design for the graphics chip that's included in their chip. Same as they borrowed the 6502 that's in there as well.
Have you ever done any or considered any work on like the PC Engine? Because it's really just a superior version of an NES for the most part.
Yes. Actually, funny you said that. That's actually on the list of next systems. So very next.
Ooh, nice.
And I should have had a prop handy, is the Sega SG-1000. I already have PCBs. I've printed a test cartridge shell. Of course, it uses a different logic chip to the other two that I have, and I didn't have any of those. So I'm waiting for those to arrive, and I've started converting my code. But directly after that, I'm going to have a go at Master System, which is obviously the next one down the tree. But I would also like to do PC Engine, most definitely. And I'll probably, obviously, I'm not going to convert these basic arcade games to PC Engine. I will probably do like a vertical shooter reimagined.
Will you make like a Hue card, or we just make a ROM? I mean, how would you handle that? Do we make your own version of a Hue card?
there's two ways of doing PC Engine. You can go CD.
True.
That's the easiest way to publish because there's no protection mechanism at all on CDs in PC Engine. But you can make hue cards.
Yeah, there's a company that makes blank hue cards. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and you get your own little programmer, and there's different sizes of hue cards to do whatever. So yeah, I've seen that.
See,
don't know why I was looking around. I can't program to save my life, but
Yeah, and I don't, for what I would produce to start with on the PC Engine, which would probably be shoot 'em up focused, a hue card's fine with the amount you can fit a lot on those hue cards. So,
hey, Glenn, throw up that question again for Tony there. That the last one there. We'll ask it there.
Now I'm gonna go all the way find it. You didn't ask it when I brought it up. Now I gotta go all the way. Here we go.
No, I think I got it. Are ROMs available for any? Yeah. Any of this or purchase physical media only and stuff? Do you sell the ROMs and physical media or both or whatever?
Yes, I will have digital ROMs. I just like to let the people have a go at getting physical to start with, and probably when I release this next game on physical, I release the digital of the first one. So not far off. Next game is actually almost. I still need to do sound and music, but it's actually most of the gameplay done. So my next game is actually in cooperation with the immortal John Hancock and is the Coleco MSX Stretch Video SG-1000 version of Block'em Sock'em, which is
puzzle game.
Yeah, action puzzle game. Quite colourful, really good fun. I've pretty much... all the levels are done, all the action elements are done. I'm just doing those, fun bits, the bonus sections. I'm going to enhance the game and add a little bit more to it. Every 5 levels, you're going to play another little mini game. And I will be making a Master System version as well, but I haven't started that yet. So that's going to be my first Master System.
One game at a time.
Make a Sega Scope 3D game for the Master System. I love my Sega Scope 3D classes, but there's no new games for it.
Yeah, well, give me a little bit of time to get used to the system. I think the Master System is one of the best light gun systems. So not only does it have a light gun, but the games are actually quite good fun, and there's quite a few of them.
Actually, the packing game was Missile Defense 3D. I loved Missile Defense 3D. Siren War was another one that I enjoyed with the light phaser. They always called it the light phaser.
Light phaser, that's right. Yes.
But I like my Master System. I think I played the Master System more than I played the NES. To be honest, mostly because of the Sega Scope 3D. I really did enjoy those 3D effect that those glasses gave off.
Yeah, the only I have the 3D glasses. Unfortunately, my face is just that little bit too wide. So you put them on and you feel like they're going to destruct. So I will say that since I first got those, I have an almost complete collection of Sega Master System games. Nice. 298 of the world set.
I think Michael B is jabbing me for liking the Master System more than the NES. That explains a lot, he said. So.
Well, I have to explain something.
I would say Cool Toy would be happy because Cool Toy is a Sega guy, and I go with the PC Engine over the Genesis. But I did like the Master System more. It was a better system. It just they didn't have third parties because NES had that stranglehold with the licenses from everyone else. If they didn't have that, I think the Master System would have definitely overtaken the NES.
You see, in the US, the Master System only had under 100 titles, whereas in the rest of the world it had almost 300. And in my region, the NES was PAL and ran at 50 hertz. And at the time, I reckon it sucked. If you know what I mean, you have to play. You had to play an NES at you have to play an NES at 60 hertz, or it's really not worth it.
And that's why we say in America, miles and Fahrenheit. Come on, rest of the world, move back to miles and Fahrenheit. You heard him say it. You want a 60 hertz, you got to take the miles and the Fahrenheit.
Which are not related, but whatever. Kathleen Kennedy lover. You keep dreaming there.
Don't bring the dragon back. That's gonna bring the dragon back. Don't bring back the dragon.
The dragon. He didn't seem too angry. That dragon. That's good. We'll call him Puffy.
And the Master System obviously is part of that TMS generational diagram because it's taking the TMS chip one direction. MSX2 took it another direction, but they're all related. And as I said, the NES is a second cousin part of the TMS graphics diagram. So,
right.
I mean, I had not programmed 6502 or the NES until John Lester wanted to write. Wanted a game for the first game on Expo. He wanted to recreate the Nintendo World Championships. So in 3 months, I learnt 6502 and the NES hardware and made the cartridge that was released at that Expo. And over more time, I've gradually, gotten more into it, and obviously got more into it that I wrote that. So
that's actually it's a good book. It's a good book. I mean, I can't do it, but I learned a lot about how people do it. There's a lot of it's amazing to see how people can think that way. I mean, I sometimes can think logically, but you really need to think, I guess, like chess. You need to be very logical in your thought process. And I just don't have that. But obviously you do. And I know Mystery Encoder doesn't. Some people can do that. I wish I could. I wish I could draw, and I wish I could code to that level. I can code some basic. I've definitely done that. But to make a game like an NES or getting into a assembly language, I tried. It was a disaster.
Yeah. Well, and when I started on the NES, which is around the time of the first game on Expo, there was online documentation with the NES. Most of it didn't agree with each other, so there was bits of information all over the place. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to write the book in the first place, was to get all that information to get people started. It's the same reason why I wrote the Coleco book. So there was lots of information around, but generally programmers aren't very good at documenting and writing stuff for other people to learn.
Oh God, no. I've seen that many times.
Their tricks, right? They want to keep their tricks there. That was a big, the demo scene. It was a huge thing. You know, these coding groups tried to outdo each other. So I could see that. You don't want to share ways to optimize
their
code
secrets.
or write code very small, but do a lot of things. I mean, a lot of people got jobs that way. You write these demos and you go to the big companies. We wrote this for this machine. They're like, wow.
It's a way of showing off and things. So those demo parties they have over in Europe are fantastic. And actually, but those demo parties are part of the reason why I was able to do this. So I got the original design of the Spectre video cartridge, we had the documentation for it, and I made a PCB, and I couldn't quite get it working. The guys, and it's actually a couple of guys from Russia, wanted to enter the demo.
I love the Russians.
One of the demo parties over in Europe with a Spectre video demo. I've actually put it on my YouTube channel to help promote it. But if you search on my channel for Spectre video demo, and they wrote a really impressive entry into the competition, and they came and they took to get it working, they took my PCB and fixed it and got it working. I had only made a couple of little changes. And then I think it's Noel's Retro Lab. He simplified.
Oh, the guy from Spain.
Yeah. He simplified the design, so that's the PCB I'm using in here. Cool. So I mean, I know how to do electronic fixes and everything like that, but I'm not a PCB designer. So happy to use other people's better knowledge there.
And I want to apologize real quick. This dragon brought some flies. There's some dragonflies down here now.
Dragonflies now.
2 flies have been bombing me. Guess he maybe pooped somewhere, Steven. Maybe he did poop in here.
Yeah, it smells like poop and spread it around. I don't know. No, but that's really good though, because it sounds like we've had you on the show before. We've talked about all this stuff, but I think it's been almost a year now since we had you on last. Is that it's come a long way in a sense. The journey continues with self-publishing, more games on the horizon to different systems, all that stuff. And it's really encouraging because the homebrew community tends to be, and I'm not talking about just Coleco or whatever, but it tends to go in waves of people releasing a bunch of stuff and then it stops. And then that's up and down, and and you end up, some people get into it and then they have it go on a shelf for a while, and
right.
And I think with more people doing it,
got to put in a bag.
Yeah, exactly. And then but I think what happens is that if more people are encouraged, I think it's just going to make it all better in the end, in the sense where there's more people doing it. Yeah, more motivation, more everything, right? So it's pretty cool.
Well, same as I like these early arcade games. These early arcade games aren't everybody's cup of tea, right? So you need to encourage other people who come up with different game ideas, and that gives us all more the games that we'd like to play from all these different people. So I like encouraging other people, and it's great seeing that you've gotten somebody past a particular thing they were stuck on.
Well, the other thing about the games that you do in the classic games is generally it's one person's idea, one person's creativity into that game versus a boardroom and 30 guys in there and a director and those other people. It's more personal. It is definitely more a labor of love, and it's one person's vision, which sometimes I think is the game's more special. Perhaps, maybe that's how I look at it anyway.
Mm-hmm. It's not made by a cast of thousands like
to be honest.
Games, so.
Well, when you look at modern games, it's a crew of 200 to 500 people working on one game, like Call of Duty or whatever. And then you go back to, we'll say, the beginning. You have folks like Tony here, and then the guy who did E.T. in 3 weeks or whatever it was.
Yeah, crazy.
Ridiculous amount of time he had to work on that game.
Well, that's the thing, and then times are so different. But again, the hardware and everything else, and the need for an artist with those 8-bit games is very low. But as the games got more mature, artists and musicians and that sort of thing got more, in the 16-bit era and NES era, it became more important, and so, as things evolved, right?
Yeah, as you go up the generations, obviously the graphic capabilities go up, so the need to improve your graphics,
exactly.
comes
it's kind of
along.
cool. Yeah, and the music for whatever chips and all that stuff,
And I fully intend on working my way through systems. So obviously there's a few 8-bit systems to do, but then I will definitely move on to some of the 16s. So obviously Super Nintendo and Genesis.
Maybe like even the Vectrex, because some people in the chat were talking about the Vectrex. I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, I mean, I have a Vectrex, and I really do like it. I love the Vector games.
I love the Vectrex. Love the Vectrex.
I could definitely have a go at that, and I actually did.
You mean the Mac Classic? Sorry.
Well, they stole that design. He stole that design.
I know they did.
In 82.
I thought I'd put a pause on that whole dreamscape.
But it's one of those systems that was unique because it had its own monitor. It was a vector monitor. But it really was, I wouldn't say like a Dreamcast of its day, but it really is a special console. If you actually play on it, it had great controls, it had an analog joystick, it had 4 buttons. It actually could do speech. The sound chip was a good sound chip. It could do speech in there. And the visuals were unique because it drew things in vector. You'd be scaling and zooming stuff you really couldn't do on an 8-bit console of the day, even though it was only black and white. But if you ever get a chance, I tell people, if you go out in the wild and you see a Vectrex in working order, you buy it. You buy it, you take it home and show it love because it is a beautiful, beautiful machine. Absolutely.
And from a programmer's point of view, the Vectrex is enticing because it's something different. And that's what I like. I like different things. So that's why also the NES with all of its different quirks and everything like that. I like the low-end systems where you can discover what you can do with them, and with slightly more modern tools, focus on seeing how far you can push the hardware. And I'm at that stage in my life. All of my children are now 18 plus. We only have one living with us now. I'm lucky to have a good solid job. And they're all girls, all my children. So it's only me and the cat So I do have more time, and they leave me. They go off and do stuff, and they leave me to my own devices. So I am finding more time. I have thoroughly enjoyed even the assembly process of working out the 3D printing and doing the electronics assembly and stuff. I find that's actually my pottering, if you know what I mean.
It's therapeutical for you, probably.
It's therapeutical because, I mean, I have a fairly high-paced job, and it's nice to do something slightly different. But I am finding that I'm getting back up to speed on actually creating titles. So the Block'em Sock'em hasn't taken me very long at all to put together, and I'm quite pleased with the graphics that I've come up with that are honouring the systems that they're on.
Real quick, now for something completely different. Real quick, Big B73 wants to know, how do you build a courage filming in front of the public, talking to a camera? We're not talking to a camera. I'm talking to you guys, which are my friends. So that's really how it is, you know.
Well, that's what when I sit
horsefly.
And although my YouTube video output has slowed down at the moment, you know, my thing at the moment is that I have other things that are really interesting to me at the moment. So, and I still do have quite a busy life, so it's hard for me to film. But when I sit down in front of the camera, I treat it just like here, where I'm talking to Stephen and Glenn. I'm talking to the people that I'm have been communicating in the chat and everything like that out there.
Yeah, it's
not that scary. I don't think we're that scary.
No, just that damn dragon that showed up earlier. That was a little
he
scary.
wasn't scary either,
it
man. But
like he had a little Parkinson's going on there. I don't know.
He did toast my machine, you know. He's a little bit of a jerk with that, but you know.
He threw your voice out of sync and all that.
Yeah, because I'm on the backup camera. He stole the primary camera.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Well, sure. So, other than that, now we've got a Zoltar in scrolling, and it's been, we're running out of time. But I am curious to hear Glenn's opinion on this thing, because we spoke on the phone a little bit. This is the thing from Big. He's putting his butt in your face, man. What's
he is. I'm going to put him on my shoulder, though.
Oh, there you go. Okay. All right.
Cool.
So this Zoltar, Glenn.
Yeah.
This is the one you ordered. I am curious to know a mini review, I guess we'll call it, because I'm sure.
Well, I had. Now he's in my face. Move over, Dragon. Move over a little bit.
He's taking
Get over there. I'll put you over there. There.
Like a cat.
Yes. Better. So I had to get this myself because when I was growing up in Playland, which if anyone saw the movie Big, that was supposed to be Playland that was there, and there was
that thing
Zoltar.
Famous like the DeLorean did for Back to the Future.
Exactly.
Basically.
So that Zoltar was always there. My son, I started taking him when he was 5. It disappeared like 2 years ago, though. So it was always there. It was either in front of the Dragon coaster, no pun, with the Dragon over here, I should say, and they did a nice job. Now I know the problem with this one is, I should say, is that it is a mechanical thing. So shipping could do a lot more damage to it. When I got mine, the outer box was pretty beat up, and I was kind of worried that Zoltar was going to be a Zoltar mess. But he is good. But some people have had him broken
off or something like that. You mean?
Right. Well, I seen one where the whole body was broken off and flipped off, and because shipping is not gentle. But as far as what it is, when I ordered it, it was like $103 or $4 shipped. So it was a very good deal. It is all plastic, though. I mean, most of the stuff from New Wave Toys is wood. This is going to be. It is all plastic. But he does what he's supposed to do. He talks. He got in a track mode. There's little labels that do come out. I do hope they make more labels, because me, I'm not going to touch those labels, because once you rip them, read them, they're no good anymore. So
do they sell replacement rolls or whatever?
It comes with a second roll. So I have the roll that it comes in the box. It's already there. Plus, I give one additional roll. But I need an additional roll to my additional roll. I need to have an extra.
I need a roll for my additional roll.
Right. But the audio was very clear. The audio was very clear. The little his little crystal ball lights up. This is exactly what the real machine did. So me personally, to put with my other Build-A-Case or New Wave toys, sitting there. And this one's really for my son. It's gonna end up, if he's watching, he's gonna know it now. But this is really for him because he liked Zoltar. So if you like these things and you want to kind of recreate, people those little montages at home, you're gonna want this. They have cigarette machines they're coming out with. You're gonna want that too. So, but now if you didn't get it to pre-order, I think it's like $149. Right now it's like 10% off. But I think Pliskin's Run said
expensive.
Right, Pliskin's Run said it's sold out already. They're gone. So that didn't take long. But I understand, unlike the other ones, this one will be made more of. This is not like a limited edition. So this one people may be able to get. It's a cool thing to look at. I mean, you can't really play it. It's just a cool thing to show friends that may like big. But for me, it was for the money and to give to my son. It was worth it. I like it. It came safe and sound to my house.
That's cool. It looks like really interesting, to be honest. So I didn't. I don't know much about it.
New Wave Toys just does a very good job at not only shrinking it down in like a 1/6 scale form factor. They take some liberties at sometimes. But usually when they take liberties, it's a cool improvement. Like with the Dragon's Lair, the back, you can pull out this little DVD player. You don't have to do that. No one's going to really know about the video disc player inside. So they just do cool things like that. But the one cool thing about the 1/6 scale is right now the GRS Build-A-Case on sale for $49.99. Just use the checkout code Too Many Games, TMB50 for $50 off a Build-A-Case. $49.99. Can't beat that deal. There we go. Second commercial in there. So speaking of prices, Tony, speaking of prices, like what do your games generally go for? Someone buys the box. What do these generally go for?
Well, this is the other thing. So one barrier for me originally thinking about making and shipping my own games was I thought that Australian shipping was too expensive. Right. But they actually have a very good service. It's all fully tracked, and their prices they've now introduced a business account, so you can quite literally log in, create a label yourself, pay for it, and depending on how many you create, you get a discount. Print it yourself and affix it, and then you just drop them off at the postal centre. You can even go to another level where they will actually come and pick them up as well. So it's like a freight service, but doesn't cost anywhere near as much. Steven's being attacked.
Well, that's the one thing too. Here we'll put Trid Muffin over here on your boxes. That's the one thing you have no control over, and I get it as well as the shipping. You have to make sure when it's shipped, it's got some tracking and and proof of delivery, stuff like that. But shipping is just expensive these days. Period.
Yes, it's going up. The same as the Replicates. I haven't been able to get all of them because the shipping is, to me here in Australia, is actually quite a lot. Now, as far as the games, I sell them for 66 Australian with GST. Anybody who orders from overseas gets them for 60 because you don't pay the Australian GST. Now, that's in Australian dollars, which means US people, you get a 40% discount off that price if you're thinking in US dollars. Canadians are as
it's the same amount in Canada. It's
but
Canadian
as an example,
dollar and Australian dollar is about on par with each other.
Yeah. So, Stephen, what would a normal $60 US game, which a lot of the homebrews sell for, cost you in Canadian?
If it was in US dollars, about $80.
About $80. So my games are actually
around there. It's like it's expensive.
Yeah, my games are actually cheaper. But I'm
You'll
happy.
have to wait, but it's worth it, in the end.
And delivery times, it does depend on where you are in the world. Some of the European
forever to get here.
some of the European places in that European place, Canada. The box made Stephen's copy, as an example, made it to Canada in 3 days.
Wow, that's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, and it took about 10 to 12
not to my
days.
house. That's to get to the coast of Canada on the
Yes.
Oh.
To touch the country kind of thing.
Yeah, but it took another 10, 12 days to get from there to Stephen.
They had the doggy sled it up here. That's what happened. They had to get the dogs out. And well, Tony was calling me, and he was like, "Did you get it yet?" I'm like, "No." 10 days go by, and he's like, "You should have got it by now." I was like, "Well, stuff's slow here, I guess. I don't know. I got to unload the plane. I don't know.
Well, customs is another issue too. Like it's stuck in customs for weeks at a time. And a lot of times that's where it gets beat up sometimes in customs. You know, the box was fine when it got to them
for 4 days.
And they step on it and they kick it around for like a week, and then that's fine. They send it off to you at that point.
Well, that's the thing.
And I've only had one box that was completely and utterly crushed. That was actually John Hancock's.
Oh,
it looked like it had been treated like a football. And it actually depends on where you are in the US is how fast you get it. Some states it's way quicker.
Because I think some of it goes to Denver, and some of it, like depending on which part of the U.S. that they have a major airport, and then they unload everything. But where I live, I'm 8 hours north of Toronto, so it's
drive up. I'm actually going to see John next month, August 8th, 9th, and 10th, where I'm at the Long Island Game Expo. So I've been friends with him for a long time, but I never actually met him, so I'm going to meet him at that show.
Oh, he's a really nice guy. You'll definitely enjoy meeting him.
He is. I'll bring a box. I'll just smash it.
Did we have him on the show at one time?
Oh yeah, we had.
We did have him once on the show, I believe.
Mm.
Yeah, it was quick. It was an hour, and that was it. And unfortunately, so.
Tony, what's next? Like, what's your next thing?
The next game is definitely Block'em Sock'em.
Okay.
Then it'll either be, depending on where my interests go, it'll be the enhanced version of Pixidus, or it will be Kangaroo.
Go for Kangaroo. Kangaroo.
Yeah, I know. Everybody wants Kangaroo. Yes. And look, I haven't written, other than Sydney Hunter for the NES, I haven't written a proper platform game for a while. So I've got that itch to make a good platform game. And I think Kangaroo is a good, fun platform game.
Very cool.
So are we out of time here?
I think so. If I could ask Tony, what time is it in Tasmania right now? What do you got? 2 in the morning?
11:03 a.m.
Oh, it's the daytime. Okay,
ahead.
She slept already. Okay, I thought like he's tired. He's got to go to bed.
No, he went to bed and he woke up, and the first thing was chatting with us.
Remember, I had to reboot Tony OS and insert the coffee program.
Yes, I do remember that. Yes,
that's pretty cool. Well, thank you again, Tony, for joining us and sharing your homebrew goodness. We'll call it.
I'm going to put. I have the link to your site in the on my comment.
I got one last question.
There's something going on around here. My lights are turning on and off. I got a dragon here. That's weird. That is weird.
Yeah, we got one last question by Mystery Encoder, by the way.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
The art himself. Question.
No, that wasn't it. He said this.
Okay, no, but there was one up above.
Was it? Okay.
All the art himself.
All the art. Now, I did design this box.
Here we go.
A certain other member in this chat says that I need to do better, so he's going to help.
I wonder who that is. It's probably Glenn or something. I don't know.
I can't even draw a damn stick figure. I can't even draw a straight line. It's not going to be me.
But all the game graphics I did myself. I have collaborated with the other person in this chat, Mr. Stephen, before. So he actually created the graphics set for Berserk for me.
When that came out, yeah.
Mm.
I've done box art before and stuff like that. So let's see how it goes. That's the best thing. We'll check it out. So, but yes, his website electricadventures.net.
Yep, .net.
So
cool.
I think if you go .com, you end up at a porn site or something. So don't do it. Okay? It's .net, .com. So he doesn't do that kinky stuff. So anyway.
Well,
are we out?
Again,
are we in? Are we?
We're out. We want to thank everyone once again for joining us on Friday. Of course, Tony, it was great having you on again. He's always fun. I mean, I'm just looking at his room, all the cool stuff he's got, behind him. It's really neat stuff. But we really appreciate you coming on. What a week, Steven. What do you have planned this weekend? What's going on this weekend?
Yard sale. Sell all my crap. So
there you go.
It's I don't know what I'm gonna put in there because I have a few things like some old cassettes and CDs and stuff that I want to get rid of, and old VHSs and things like that. So I'm gonna be putting a little bit of that. And everybody comes over, they know me as the game guy, and they're like, "When are you putting all your game stuff out?" I'm like, "Not yet, not yet. I want to make sure I got it all first." Like all these Xbox things back there. That's what my doubles, but I don't want to get rid of them. I was telling Tony before the show that I don't want to get rid of the better copy, right? So I'm gonna wait till I get my full collection, and then I'll liquidate everything. And,
Smart.
So that's the
Tony,
idea. What about you guys?
Well, Tony, you're already into your weekend, so what are you doing?
Well, I said I have 4 girls. My eldest girl actually runs a dance school. We're having the main dance Eisteddfods here this week, and it's the final night tonight. So I will be going to be the good dad and granddad now, and watching 2 of my girls on stage tonight, and obviously supporting my eldest daughter in her dance school things. And then tomorrow we are going to head off to our holiday home, where I will work from down there during the week so my wife can have a proper rest, because she leading up to the dance Eisteddfod, she makes all the costumes and everything like that. And yes, she'll needs a break.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Glenn?
And down the shack, I do lots of programming. So
nice.
Yeah.
Well,
what about
for
you,
me,
Glenn?
it depends. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, but my bushes and trees and shrubs, lawn. I have a tree that fell. Again, it took out half my shed. Luck. So if it doesn't rain, I'll be outside doing lots of yard work, and hopefully getting this dragon, getting him to shoo out over here, or this side. Keep doing it backwards. Shoo. That's it for the most part.
Jittery thing.
Well, when you finish there, you can come and help me with my garden as well.
I could do that. I'd love to come down to Australia someday.
I'm going to go one day before I kick the bucket, for sure. So, anyway.
Well, and Tony, if you ever go to Australia, you have to come to the main part of Australia, which is Tasmania.
Absolutely. I want to see a Tasmanian devil. They are there, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes, they've managed to keep some of them. They have managed to keep some of them alive and.
Are you serious?
Free from the they've been dying from a
plague,
like a mutation, a genetic mutation, which is giving them cancer, facial cancer.
Wow!
The population has gotten down to 30% of what it was originally, but the ones they have left, they believe they have bred ones that don't have the genetic defect.
Oh, wow.
It was that dire, they thought they were going to lose them completely.
But they don't make that weird sound like the one on Bugs Bunny does, right?
No, probably not.
Well, they do sort of. They do sort of.
Oh, really? That's what you hear in the bush?
You have to.
Not that it's a good thing. Not that it's a good thing. If animals do go extinct these days, at least they can preserve the DNA and perhaps clone them and bring them back at some point. That's the one thing at least we could do with technology today. Although when AI takes over, it's just going to kill us all anyway. It won't really matter. There'll be robot
AI will figure it out.
Point. We will.
Yeah, I think we've got a little while. There's a nice meme going around of an AI asking ChatGPT how to mount a TV. Just look that one up.
I saw that. Yeah, it mounts the TV backwards on the wall.
Yeah. I do like some good shows, but I'm not going to mount my TV. I'm not to that point where I'm going to mount the TV yet. No,
not that kind of show. Here.
I'm getting close, I think, but I'm not going to do it. No. So on that note, everyone, thank you once again for joining us in Kicking Old School. We really appreciate you guys. You make the show fun. Tony, great guest as always. Steven, always here putting up with me as well. So with that, Tony, have a great rest of your day. Steven, enjoy your weekend. Me, working weekend. But most of all, remember, these guys already know it, and you guys know it as well. Take a minute, reach out to someone, and let them know that they matter, that you care, that you love them. Tomorrow's never promised. That's all the games that we have. Nothing's more important than family and friends, right, guys?
Exactly.
Definitely.
All right. So
don't forget the game on.
Now I'm getting there. So on that note, you take a moment to let someone you know that they care, you love them. But in between those times,
play the damn crap out of those games.
Pet your dragon, and then game on.
Bye, Puff.
Are you looking for that arcade experience at home? If you don't have the space for a full-size arcade in your house or endless funds, then you need the GRS Build-A-Case. It's arcade quality without the arcade price, from someone you can trust. The GRS Build-A-Case is very simple, easy to assemble, 1/6 scale arcade computer you can build yourself. You can buy interchangeable controllers for every gaming option you need to play the games the way they're meant to be played. You can also design your own artwork or purchase artwork separately to make your GRS Build-A-Case look like the machine of your dreams. The GRS Build-A-Case is also the only home system STEM certified. Come see what all the YouTube creators are raving about. GRS Build-A-Case.
Game on.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit.